I know exactly what to do. I did it before. Take my rod and strike it. And you know, it's the easiest thing in the world to reduce our Christian lives to learned behavior, repeated behavior. It doesn't take its direction from God and dependence on God and trust in God. It's just repeat the formula. I've done it before, repeat the formula. You know, one of the interesting things about the ministry of Jesus is that you could never lock him into a pattern. If you tried to lock him into a pattern, he would break it. Now, we're very secure about patterns because we like things to be predictable. We like to know how things are going to work. If you read in Matthew 8 and 9, those two chapters, there are 10 distinct miracles that Jesus performed up in Galilee. And if you look at those miracles carefully, you'll see that there's great variety in the way in which Jesus performed those miracles. A leper came to him first, and he touched the leper and said, "Be clean." And nobody ever touched lepers. They rang a bell saying, "Keep away. I've got this dreaded contagious disease of leprosy." And have you ever noticed that Jesus always touched lepers? He always touched the untouchable. And he touched the leper, he was healed. And then a centurion's servant came up and said, "My servant lies sick at home. Please come and visit him." Or at least Jesus said, "I'll come visit him." He said, "No, I'm not worthy to have you come into my roof. Just speak the word." And when the man got home, he discovered his servant had been healed at that very moment. This time, Jesus didn't touch the man. He just spoke the word. And then you have a paralytic who is lowered down to Jesus. And when he was speaking in a house, lowered down from the roof. And 4 of his friends had brought this man. And Jesus didn't touch this man. He said, "Your sins are forgiven." And the man got up and began to walk. He didn't touch him. He didn't speak about him. He spoke directly to him. And then when he was leaving that area, he was in a crowd of folks. When a lady came up behind him, touched his garment, he didn't touch her. She touched him. He turned around and said, "Who touched me?" And there's an embarrassed, red-faced lady over here. And he said, "Your faith has made you well." He didn't touch her. He didn't speak to her. She touched him. And you look at the variety of ways in which Jesus dealt with people, and it's all very well. Reread that, and we have no problem with that. But I imagine that in Jesus' day, it probably caused all kinds of problems when he left the area. I can imagine the people meeting together and saying to each other, "You know, when Jesus was here, he healed me," says one. Another one says, "Yeah, he healed me as well." And the first says, "You know, it's fantastic. He touched me, and it was like I could feel the power of God coming down his arm and through his fingers and into my body. Did you feel that when he touched you?" And the second one says, "What do you mean, touch me?" "Well, you know, you said you were healed by Jesus." "Well, I was." "Well, when he touched you, didn't you feel the power of God coming through his fingers?" "Well, no, he didn't touch me at all. He just, what did he do?" "Well, he spoke to me. I mean, I was lying there paralyzed. He said, 'Get up.' And I never heard such authority. Something jumped up. And it was amazing. Didn't you hear that when he spoke to you?" And the first one says, "Well, he didn't speak to me." Are you sure you were really healed? Are you sure yours wasn't psychosomatic?" You know? Because they've worked out, you see, how Jesus heals. And so they probably formed 2 churches. One forms the touchy church. And they meet together in somewhere in one end of the town, and they sing their favorite hymns. You know, "He touched me, and to get a touch from the Lord is so real." You know, those are their favorite songs, and they just meet and they touch and touch and touch. And the other forms a church called the Church of the Word, and they just sing, "Speak, Lord, in the stillness while we wait on thee," and make sure it's still. Because they've worked out, you see, there's certain ways in which Jesus Christ works. And everything's fine until a man comes into town one day who's also been healed by Jesus, and they both want to invite him to come to their church. So they go to his door, knock on the door, and the man from the touchy church speaks first. He says, "I understand Jesus healed you." "That's right, I was blind, actually. He healed me. That's fantastic. We'd love you to come to our church on Sunday night. We have a testimony time how Jesus touched people, and maybe you can come and tell us how he touched you and healed you." Well, thank you. I'd love to come. But did you say when he touched me? Well, yes, because you said he healed you, so he must have touched you. He said, No, he didn't touch me. So the other man says, "Excuse me, we also have a true church in this town. We'd love you to come and share with us how Jesus spoke the word and said, 'Be healed,' and you were healed. We'd love you to come and share with us on Sunday night." So, "Well, thank you very much. I'd love to. But did you say when he spoke to me?" "Yeah." "Didn't he speak to you?" "Well, no." So the first one says, "He didn't touch you?" "No." "He didn't speak to you?" "No." "What did he do?" Well, he did what I assume he always does. What did he do? He just spat in my eye. Didn't he spit in yours? Actually, it's a very interesting story because I'll just read it. Mark chapter 8. What do you have there? Let me just read it to you. It's very interesting, a lot of what I've just said to you, because in Mark chapter 8, it says that they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Do you notice that? His friends were from the touchy church. They didn't ask Jesus to heal him. Lord, this man's blind, and we know what you do. Just bring your finger this way, just touch him. If you just touch him. And whenever we lock Jesus into a pattern, we can be sure he'll break out of it. I'd love to have been there, actually, this day, because it must have been amazing, you know. They saw this blind man, and here's Jesus, and he's brought in front of this blind man, and the crowd around are watching, we're going to see a miracle. And I imagine the crowd going silent as they listen. What's going to happen? And suddenly in the silence, they hear... and he spits right in his eye. And he probably starts another church called the Church of the Holy Spittle. And they sing every Sunday, Spittle of the Living God, fall afresh on me. You see, it's far easier to deal with programs, patterns, predictabilities, than to deal with a living Jesus.